Cam, it's Mut and Wiggy this morning. How are you?
What's going on, fellas? How are you?
We're doing good. Tough one yesterday against the Dolphins. And some of the numbers, Cam, that stood out, 2 for 9 on third down, 0 for 1 in the red zone. Was it a case of just some missed key opportunities yesterday for the offense?
I mean, you could say so. I mean, we were efficient. I feel like pushing the ball and moving the ball. We just didn't do enough to move it in the red zone, and I think that's a direct, responsibility for the overall group. But yet, we did a lot of good things, but didn't do a lot of things enough. To win.
Cam, when you think about, like you said, being able to move the football, what are some of the things maybe after looking at the film a little bit, some of the things that maybe you could have did a little bit differently as a group offensively to maybe come away with some more points?
I just think from my part, just taking more of what the defense is giving me. And obviously I let the ball get away from me, while running the football, but those things that you wish you could have back, but also, just being, aggressively conservative, with the defense that, obviously is opportunistic in that way. And I found out the hard way, but, just constantly taking, the check downs, taking, the 3 and 4 yard gains, and even in the red zone, because they add up. And, if I were to have done that, taking those opportunities, maybe, we would have scored. We just didn't know.
You mentioned after the game that you're still trying to, again, this is late in the year, still working on, fine-tuning your points in the offense, Cam. Is that part of it, being able to recognize you don't have to take the home run shots and defenses are giving you those chances to do stuff underneath?
Well, I mean, we've been getting like a reciprocated, game plan for us for a long time now, and it's just, defenses are challenging us, and it's just up to me to be patient enough to take whatever they're, challenging us to take, whether that's from, playing zone with the extra defender in zone to, making a decision pre-snap that forces me to get the ball out quick, or, needless to say, it's just all about, in-game execution. And Coach harps on that all the time. And, we just need to make it game reality, and that's what we're just always working on.
Cam, with you guys unfortunately being, out of the playoff hunt now, and we've kind of talked about this before as far as, being in the playoffs and not schedule watching, but how difficult is it for, maybe just a lot of guys, human nature, for them not to kind of just say, all right, we only got 2 weeks. It's just, I'm ready to get on vacation. I'm ready to get to some warm climate places where I'm used to being. How do you as a leader have to make sure that guys don't start doing that?
You just want to create great habits. And, that's what it's just all about, being a professional. And being that we have a responsibility and a due diligence to always put great film on field. And that's what it's all about. I know for me, I mentioned it yesterday, but, you got a lot of guys, a smorgasbord of guys in that locker room that's really doing a lot for us and committing themselves. It's just not just turning into, wins. And that's the unfortunate thing. But yet, you still have to, do your job. You still have to, like I said, be a professional and come in with a positive, sound mind to, be your best for this team.
Well, Cam, something you said that stood out to me last night in your post-game Zoom. Like you said, we've still got guys that are young. You said we've got guys that just don't get it. And you went on to say some positive things. But what did you mean by that when you said we've got guys that just don't get it?
Listen, man, I said a lot of things, but for just the society we live in, we just you harp on the things that may be the negative annotation, and I'm not gonna feed into it. It may have came off in a bad way, but I just don't want to go into it.
And Cam, that's why I asked, because you've been so positive this year, and you've talked about your role in the offense, and you've taken a lot of responsibility for things on the field. And so this is a first for me, listening to you sort of say other guys maybe don't get it. That's why I asked the question.
Oh, it's not as negative as it sounds. And let me correct myself on that, because we're depending on a lot of people who are not used to let's just be honest, the pressures of being a New England Patriot player. And honestly, if I'm being honest and candid, I'm one of those players. It took me after probably like week 5 to realize, like, bro, like, this is different. You know what I'm saying? And not different in a way that's bad, not different in a way that's good. It's just a different in a way of responsibility. And, I come on the radio station each and every week with you guys, and I look forward to it. But, it's when it's good, it's fun. When you're losing, then that's one of the things that you have to realize, like, man, like, how can I, piece this together to kind of give myself an opportunistic, kind of thought moving forward, because I know in this league, you're only measured by wins or losses, and some of it's fair, some of it's not fair. But going back to the topic of when some guys just don't get it, as just normal as being a young or even an old player to not really kind of be able to digest the whole situation at hand. And like I said, I'm learning it each and every day, and it's just something that you just have to get used to. And
go ahead. No, go ahead. That doesn't finish that.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, it's not all negative. I mean, I know it sounds like a negative kind of response, but it takes time to really, disassociate yourself with something that you've been used to, and then try to render yourself and everything to a situation that you're growing to learn day by day. It's funny to even think that, we're in the latter part of this year, and, even though it feels like I've been here for years, and it's just only been 5 or 6 months.
Right.
And, that's the thing that is hard to do. And I know I speak for myself, because that's the only person that I can really control. But there's other players that's in this position that people are relying on and depending on. And, it's the same thing. So it's not all bad, more or less, than the reality of, hey, I'm not sure if they really thought, their early on years from a rookie year, second or third year player who really hasn't, did much on the field. Now this year they're thrusted in a role where they were able to look at, a veteran, player and get some type of notes and topics and say, hey, man, how do you do this? How do you do that? And a lot of it is affected by COVID. You're not able to kind of meet, out of the facility with players. You're not able to, kind of take your relationship to the next level and trust, so to speak, because of, all the rules and regulations that COVID has kind of hit us with. And you got guys that's kind of teaching themselves on the go, and that's what I mean.
Now, one of the things that you talked about was coming up short. Now, and I understand what you're saying, because on the similar spectrum, I don't know if you heard Jamal Adams, but he was in Seattle, and he basically was relishing in the fact that, they are actually going to the playoffs, and he's not used to that. So I understand the pressure that it is to play for a team like New England and just the expectations. But some of the things that you talked about was coming up short and things so what are some of the things that maybe when you look at this season, you're kind of able to step back to where you are at this point? What could you have done differently that might have helped you win some of those close games that you talk about?
Listen, and let's correct something. I mean, I'm mentioning, and I want to go back and fix something of the pressures of New England. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily the pressures; it's the standard, right? And that's something that I've always respected about the Patriots, and now being a part of it. It's something that you have to get home on a train sooner rather than later, and engulf yourself in understanding what that means. And, it all starts in meeting preparation, practice and obviously, in games. But, for us, if we do kind of find ways to win those early games, even in the early part of the year, came short on the 1 yard line. We had our momentum kind of going, and then it shifted after COVID, and just a lot of games that was one score games. And if we did any things better in the early part of the games, maybe the latter part of the games wouldn't be so tense or whatever. But yet, you still, as a player, this has nothing to do with the team you're playing on. You still, as a player, just to take the challenges of knowing that you have to be better, your best self, when your best self is needed. And that's a famous quote from John Wood, and that Coach Jared has kind of been, implemented and picking at our brains to remind us that, we have to be better when our best is needed. And that's the thing that I didn't do enough this year, and that's something that I keep in my memory bank and for the challenges here moving forward.
And one thing, I think that's a good word, the standard, right? So the standard is a little bit different. One real quick thing, you talked about COVID. Bill Belichick have talked about it before, and just how it's made the season a little bit different. For you weren't able to really get a good off season because of the fact that, COVID hit right during like kind of free agency. So by the time you got here, it was a little bit later in the game. You feel like that has affected you in any way? Obviously, you missed some time with COVID, and, maybe things would have been a little bit different if it was a normal season?
I think my only regret about COVID is this. I'm a very social person. Mm-hmm. I'm a social peer. I'm a social teammate. I'm a social, human being that it's one thing to know a person on the football side. And I always use the analogy of COVID affected our team in a way to make a lot of us feel like associates or coworkers. Okay. Rather than really feeling like a team at times. And hear me out when I say at times, because, for me, if this was not the case, obviously you can have guys over, you can really find out the personal side. Hey man, you got a girl? Are you married? How many kids do you have? What's your player language? There's a thing out that says, what's your love language? What's your player language? Like, are you the guy, who gets riled up in intense situations where you're like, hey, Wiggy, hey, come on, bro, like, you better than that. Or, right. Hey, so-and-so, like, let's go. Like, you don't necessarily know that and find that out until like going through certain situations. And we didn't have preseason, we didn't have opportunities to kind of break bread and say, hey, bro, every Thursday, man, a different player on the team is going to host Thursday night football. Hey, bro, let's go on a dinner date with the wives or the girlfriends or XYZ, things that I'm used to doing. And I feel like when it's just like any other thing in life. You guys have a great show. And it's not a great show because you've been doing it, for a long time. It's more or less a great show because you know so much about each other. You guys can give each other a hard time or laugh about certain situations, and you guys know each other. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think this year it affected a lot of me because I didn't necessarily know. And it's not an excuse, more or less just the reality of being in a situation that a lot of people were affected, and a lot of people were affected in a different way. And if I had one thing that I could just go back and change, I would have changed that, being that, not being able to really connect with people early on because of the limitations that COVID presented.
Cam Newton joining us here on the Harbor One Hotline. You're speaking to us. Bill spoke to the media a couple of minutes ago, Cam, and he was asked about younger players playing the final 2 weeks and about quarterback, and he said, we'll see. Do you expect to be the starting quarterback the next couple of weeks?
I'm going to leave it up to the people who I've been leaving it up to since day one. I'm not going to get caught up into it nor feed into that, knowing that I'm still on the job interview, to be honest with you. And, it's my job to, put the best version of me on film. And that's what I plan on doing.
Now, one of the things when you look at, you talked about COVID, was some real interesting things there. As you focus on, obviously, I know it's the next two games that you focus on, and those are the most important things. And next year, is this season going to help you maybe reflect a little bit of some of the things that you've learned here to make you obviously help you become an even better player next season moving forward, to try to use this learning experience? And maybe what are some of the things that you're able to take away to kind of hopefully build off of for next year?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, let's be honest, there's some things being, affiliated with the likeness of Bill Belichick or Josh McDaniels or Jed Fish, and just the aura of, organization that's built off, from Mr. Kraft, that I will leave for the rest of my life and my personal life, let alone, as an athlete. So, I mean, I know we've kind of harped on some things that was kind of like, okay, whatever, but this whole experience has just been wowing to the degree to say, man, I need to be better. My best is needed all the time, not just sometimes. And, when you have that approach, you just become successful in life. So, yeah.
Cam, it's interesting. Going back to your COVID answer, did that affect the relationship with Bill? You seem to have learned a lot from Bill this year. Do you feel like it would have been different, that relationship, if COVID had not been a factor this year?
No, I wouldn't say that. Coach Bill has been great. And I've talked on early of not to know what to expect. And here we are. For him to be such a student, a teacher, in essence, to students. That's what I respect most. He's such a historian of the game of football, and from a person that loves just the behind the scenes stories of, what it was like coaching this player, that player. And, back in 98 or back in 01, we played XYZ. And, I'm just telling you, I played this defensive coordinator. We played this offensive coordinator, and he ran this. So just be alert. Those are all, things that, he's telling stories. And I'm just like, man, doggone, like it's the almanac brain that he has, to be able to recite just offhand that, man, I remember, man, they hit a deep post on the 30-yard line in the second quarter back in, 04. And, this player made that play. And it's just like, man, he has film to back it up. But I think the COVID relationships didn't affect the coaches because I was in the facility for so long. And, that's how I was able to mend the relationship with the coaches. Mm-hmm. Now, the players, on the other hand, that was something that was different. And I was forced to be there, a lot of times because I was trying to learn, as much as I could. So, I would say that would be the thing. But as far as coaching, no, because I've rendered myself, and they also rendered themselves to me, for any questions that I did have. It was just outside of the game, and only, players or, Wiggy,
right.
The best things about football isn't the games. It's the locker room environment. It's what the plane's like on winds coming from the West Coast, or, coming back home and, you guys just playing cards, in the locker room or on the plane. And we can't even do that because of the COVID rules. So, it's crazy.
Well, you sound like you still love football, Cam. So I just want to get your reaction. There was a story yesterday on SI that suggested that you may retire next year. Have you thought about retirement at all?
Man, listen, I'm not there. One of my goals this year, for what it's worth, was just to, finish the year healthy. And, this year, man, God has granted me and gave me the opportunity to play a healthy season, for what it's worth. And yeah, I still have a lot of football left, and I still want to play football, and I have the urge to be better. After putting on this film, come on now. Like, I can't go out like this. I definitely can't go out like this.
When you talked about being able to break bread with players, I don't think a lot of fans really understand the chemistry that's built in the offseason, that's built, like you said, the relationships you have with guys, whether it's hanging out with them on a Thursday or Friday night, those plane rides back, working out in the weight room, getting that extra work in, whether it's before or after practice. And I don't think fans, we really understand it because, a lot of people haven't been there. But that's a huge part of building a team. And I remember as a player, that was one of the things. Teams were built in the offseason as far as that chemistry. And it sounds like, that's been extremely difficult. Can you give us a little insight on, like, how difficult as far as the protocols? Because I think that's the one thing we don't really know, that you guys don't meet as much, together as you used to in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it's not hard to find out about the protocols. I mean, it's online. And the protocols change each and every day. I think we're like one of probably 5 or 6 teams that actually meet in person still, and that's out of 32 teams. So a lot of guys are still WebExing, and even when when we are still in the facilities, guys can't even be in the locker room at the same time for more than 15 minutes.
Right.
So it's such a weird deal. And there's nothing to blame about, nothing that happened this year, but I'm just trying to, and even with me, I just feel like still there's so much about you guys knowing me that you do not know. And it's just all off of time. I'm still, in essence, introducing myself, to guys that's like, oh, no, man, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this. I don't like that. I don't do this. I don't know where you would get that from. But, it's just the stereotypes that people may have of you. And I know who I am, and I said it before and I'll say it again. I'm a very social person. And, with that, it's hard to be social when you have to be social distancing. You know what I'm saying? And, so much of a team is built with the emotional talks. Man, I'm going through it at home with my parents, man. Hey, man, I'm having issues, with this, that, and the third. And you're able to connect with people. And it doesn't matter what your profession is, doesn't matter what you're doing in life. It just brings you closer to a human being. So when you are faced with close games, you know how to communicate. You know how to, get a person going. You know how to motivate a person. You know how to not turn the person off, in a time of crisis, so to speak. And when you look at the great teams, they all had that. Obviously, I can't talk to David Andrews like I talk to Damian Harris. I can't talk to N'Keal Harry like I talk to, Jarrett Stidham. You know what I'm saying? 2 and 3, 4 different people who I just named that come from totally complete different backgrounds. Talking to Stephon Gilmore is different than talking to, Lawrence Guy. Talking to Bill Belichick is different than talking to, Josh McDaniels. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's a process that you have to go about with learning each other. And, me being a new guy for a long time, it affected that. But, you still try to be, and I am still being optimistic about, this whole thing and trying to make the most of what the hand that you was dealt.
Oh, let's try to learn something about Cam with this quarterback question of the week, because I need some help with something. The quarterback question of the week sponsored by Northeast Men's Health, offices in Denham near Legacy Place and in Salem, New Hampshire. Northeast Men's Health, the experts in men's sexual health, northeastmenshealth.com. So Kyrie Irving was back in town on Friday against the Celtics. He walked around the building with this burning sage that he claims is some sort of way to get rid of, bad juju. Wiggy has told me
energy.
So Wiggy does this at home. His wife does it. Wiggy suggested that Cam Newton is a sage guy. Does sage work? And are you bringing it to Foxborough, to Gillette Stadium?
Well, I have not. For the record, I have not saged. No parts of the facility.
That's good. Good to know.
Maybe I should have, looking back, that was a joke. But at the same time, it's a way to really connect into yourself. It's a, for what it's worth, it's a form of meditation, so you sage, some people like incense, some people, any type of form of smoke is a way to kind of cleanse the air. And that's the theory behind it. And, obviously his stint in Boston probably wasn't ideal. And, he just wanted to kind of clear the air. So, would I have done it? Nah, I'm not here to say yay or nay, but I could kind of understand what made them do it.
And then one other one. They had a great shot of you on the sideline clipping your nails yesterday. Is that to get a better grip on the ball? Was there a bad nail you had against the Dolphins in that game?
And I split my nail.
Oh.
I split my thumbnail, and I don't know why my fingers are so sensitive to cuts, but I was bleeding, and I just finished cutting the rest of my nails. That's not something that it was kind of rare for me to do. I always cut my nails. I don't know, my nails grow like tigers or lions or whatever, but yeah. It is a good thing to kind of grip the ball. And the last thing you want is, blood on the ball. Oof. Because then now you, obviously with COVID, that's not ideal to do. So I was trying to hide it as much as possible. But yeah, I split my nail yesterday, and I was just cutting it off. And I said, I might as well just cut the rest of them.
Smart. Took some time. It's effective time use there.
They don't really realize. They don't know about this. They don't know about the sage, Cam. I'm going to try to teach them about the castor oil on the forehead when you go out. So I mean, that's kind of coming up next. So they don't really understand that. There are a lot of people that are spiritual. They don't like the bad juju, man. They feel like it's a lot of bad.
No, you can't. It's a lot, and you have to beat it to the punch, and not only saging the area, but saging yourself, man. So. Right. I got people in my life, man, who are big into, hey, charge your crystals. Hey, it's going to be a full moon tonight, man. Set your intentions. Some people are all about, manifestations and having manifestations parties, via social distancing. So those are other things that you hear party. I don't want people to kind of get all up to thinking in theories to say, well, he's been doing this. No, it's just trying to have the great vibe, the great steez, the great juju, the great, whatever, for yourself.
Well, we hope that you and your family, Cam, have a great Christmas. It is Christmas week. You guys play Monday night against the Bills. Certainly appreciate you taking all this time this morning, and good luck against Buffalo on Monday night.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Cam Newton joining us here on the Harbor One Hotline.